And welcome back. We have a guest on set, and I promise you his name is not Sizwe. I'm not going to get it wrong. But moving on to the discussion now, earlier we discussed protests that took place in Soweto yesterday against foreign-owned Spaza shop owners and unfortunately ended in 2 fatalities. Now, in a related matter, the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality is currently conducting raids on Spaza shops and counterfeit goods and also expired foods that have been confiscated during those raids. Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina joins us now to tell us more about what's happening in his neck of the woods. Mr. Masina, thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
So let me start by asking about the raids. Given what's happened in Soweto, when did you decide on these raids and why?
Well, we've received quite a number of calls from communities complaining about the counterfeit goods, but also some of the food stuff that has expired. So we do on an ongoing basis this raid through our health inspectors. The problem has always been the capacity, because we've got quite a number of local shops as well as shops in general that we have to inspect from time to time. So on the basis of the call from the community, especially the community of Tembisa, we must thank them and the fact that they raise the issues instead of taking the law into their own hands. We then increase our capacity and focus there in the area of Tembisa. We are moving into all the areas because we have now since understood that this problem is just across the board in the city. So we want to appeal to the residents of Ekurhuleni not to take the law into their own hands, but also not to target foreign nationals. Let's allow government and its agencies to move in and ensure that we deal decisively with these problems. But also want to appeal to the shop owners who are in the townships and elsewhere that they must not sell goods that have expired. They must not sell counterfeit goods because it affects our economy in a terrible way. But we also want to encourage our local entrepreneurs, because this is not just a campaign about foreign-owned shops, but it's a campaign about everyone who's involved in business. We want to appeal to the locals not to take advantage of the poor and vulnerable and sell them these goods that are not supposed to be sold. And we want to appeal to members of the community to ensure that all the products must be labeled, they must have expiry date. If there is no label or no expiry date, they must not buy them. At worst, we want to appeal that people must not be tempted because of what is happening in other areas to find themselves looting the very same product that we are suspecting as the city that they might be causing problems. I must just say, Sakina, one of the disheartening experience was to see a purity that has expired in 2014 being displayed in a shelf. It was quite shocking because you can already understand that that item was destined to be sold to a child in a community. So we really want to condemn in the strongest possible terms the sale of such product in our communities.
So, and all these points you raise are valid, but you are here in your capacity as the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni. So let me hold you accountable to that end. You talk about enforcing the law in terms of your inspectors going out, the health inspectors. You did mention that you don't necessarily have sufficient capacity, but just how often do they go out? Do you have any record of how often they actually visit Spaza shops in particular?
Yes, there's a record. The problem is always capacity. You know, in one township like Tembisa is a very huge township. So if you have about 10 inspectors, that's not sufficient for them to be doing work on a regular basis, because we have these things. Spaza shops are just, they manifest themselves in different ways. Whereas, because in the main, we've always been focusing on ensuring that those that are trading at least have got licenses. Now, we've since found that many of those who are trading, they don't even have licenses. Hence, we're calling on the law enforcement agencies to assist us, because you can't trade without the permit.
So you see, the problem here is when your health inspectors go to visit these Spaza shops. I mean, you said you do have records, so if you can just give me an indication of how often they do go and how many of these Spaza shops they would have visited, say, in the last financial year. Are you able to give us that sort of detail?
Well, I don't have those kind of figures. I know that on a monthly basis, our health inspectors go there. But the point I'm raising is that we don't have the sufficient capacity to visit all the shops. Hence, we are now relying on the communities to raise the matter to say we suspect this area and that area to be having wrong products, and we were able to move in there with the team.
How many Spaza shops do you have in Ekurhuleni?
I don't know. There's quite a number of Spaza shops.
So if you don't know how many there are, how do you know that you do not have sufficient capacity to actually police them?
No, because I know that we don't have sufficient officials to be doing that kind of work. I know that there's quite a number of Spaza shops, so I don't have figures. I can provide you with that number. But the important thing is, you need to have a certain ratio of health inspectors managing different shops in order for you to be able to deal with this problem. I'm saying that now. For instance, the reason what has brought this rate is that communities are beginning to give us reports. For instance, this morning alone, we are going to Regepak. Community have raised an issue about the bread problem. So we've taken all the teams from different places so that we can close that whole area and ensure that we inspect. As I speak to you now, our teams are on site. I'll be joining them to try and deal with the problems. That's why we are here to communicate to the public two key messages. One, that let us not consume the product that have no label, that are counterfeit. But two, let us not take the law into our own hands. Let's allow government to do their work. But thirdly, let's make sure that there are regular reports so that we can have these kind of operations to augment the already existing work that we're doing.
How many of these Spaza shops actually have trading licenses?
Well, we issue licenses to a number of Spaza shops who meet certain criteria. But I'm saying that the problem is that we have found that there are many other Spaza shops who do not have these licenses, which we are now saying to our EMPD, the Metro Police, they must close those shops down because many of these things happen because our people do not even look into for those licenses that people must use to trade. So we're closing those shops down, and we want to appeal to the community that where they see a shop and it doesn't display the certificate to conduct business, they must report those so that we're able to act swiftly as government.
And Mr. Masina, because we don't see you all that often, I was just reading something this morning about your BRT system, that you are now going to investigate what has gone wrong with that system. So what is the status of that, and why are you only instituting an investigation now, given that this project has been going on for quite some time?
Well, there's been a number of delays in our BRT system. You would know that earlier this year we suspended the head of transport because of a number of allegations that would have come. So the investigation come from that. But secondly, that we have been worried that all the completion period has not been met by our contractors, and in the main, you have had a number of contractors who did not have the technical expertise to conduct that work. So we have now since ensured that we re-engineer the project, and we want to promise the people of Tembisa in particular that we'll complete the leg, and I'm sure they can see the development that has taken place there, that it has changed the face of Tembisa, but the progress has been relatively very slow.
But the question is, you've now you've appointed people to investigate. What exactly went wrong? Why do you feel that there's a need for an investigation? You
can't have a project that is missing deadlines so many times and everything is going well. So we've got to investigate because where we suspect malpractice, we have a responsibility to ensure that we clear the air as government. So at this point, I'm unable to say to you what exactly is the problem because the investigation is underway.
How much have you spent on that project to date?
Well, we spend way over R1 billion on the project to date. We're hoping that we must complete this particular project, and want to appeal to our stakeholders, especially the Taxi Association, to bear with us as we go through this particular project. And we are certain that we'll complete it, and our commuters will enjoy this particular service. We have actually started to test the service. We have quite a number of commuters already who are utilizing the facilities as it is now, but we have to make sure that the project it reaches the practical completion as it is.
Mzwandile Masina, thanks so much for stopping by. The Executive Mayor of Ekurhuleni, Mzwandile Masina, talking to us about the Spaza shop situation, as well as, of course, the BRT system, and there will be an investigation into exactly what is going wrong in that regard. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Valen will have your sports news.